March 14th, 3/14, aka 3.14, as in pi. And I love it. It's not an official holiday yet, anyway, but every Pi Day, I go to a competition where, first off, there are many varieties of pie, blueberry, apple, we indulge. And then there's the competition part of it where they see who can name the most numbers after the decimal point from memory. And I won it once. I named 1,826 numbers from memory, but that's not the world record. And I don't know if I'll ever get close to that. The world record is 70,000 from memory. Happy Pi Day.
Have you ever cheated on anyone?
No. And I don't think I ever would. Not even if I had the chance. Although I did cheat on a math test once in junior high. And I couldn't live with myself afterwards, so I wouldn't even cheat on a test again.
What's the worst way you've betrayed a friend?
I gave a lot of my friends chlamydia. In fairness, some of them probably had it already. We're all very open about our sexuality. That's just the type of people I vibe with.
You're the conductor on a runaway trolley. There are 5 people ahead of you on the tracks who cannot get off the tracks in time. If you continue forward, you will run over and kill all 5 of them. You cannot stop the trolley, but you can change to an alternate track where there is only one person on it. If you decide to change tracks, the 5 people on the first track will live, but the one person on the alternate track will be run over and die. Do you change tracks?
I changed tracks and hit the one person. The only argument I can see for staying on the current track is that I might feel guilty if I actively made a decision that killed one person. But one person dying and me feeling guilty about it certainly isn't as bad as 5 people dying.
What is the worst way you've betrayed a friend?
Well, that would be my friend Emily from high school. We were paired together for a science project, and she looked after this egg that we were given for the first week, and I was to look after it for the second week. And I did it great. The egg was perfect, and I was carrying it into school on the last day of the project to give to Emily to hand to the teacher. I got chased by a coyote, and of course I dropped the egg, and then the coyote ate the egg, and I just thought, I can't let Emily down. Like, I don't want to betray my friend and disappoint her. And I remembered, though, that I had seen a bird's nest on the way to school a few days before, so I went back, and sure enough, there's an egg in the bird's nest. It was maybe like a slightly bluer shade of grey than the egg we'd be given, but I thought, nobody's going to notice, so I took it into school, handed it to Emily. She was just about to give it to the teacher, and a red-tailed hawk flew in the window and violently attacked Emily for touching her baby's egg. And so not only did we not get an A, Emily was in intensive care for 3 weeks, and things were never the same with us again.
What is the worst way you've betrayed a friend?
I don't have friends, but I have betrayed people. When I was in high school, there was a girl in my class who told me she wanted to kill herself. And I could have helped her, but I didn't.
And in hindsight, I do wish I had. I ran into her recently, and she's married to a loser, has 2 ugly children, and works part-time as a waitress. If I had helped her commit suicide back then, she wouldn't be suffering like that. I offered to kill her now, but apparently it's too late. She doesn't want to die anymore.
What is your favorite holiday?
My birthday falls on Christmas, so I get double presents every year. What can compete with that?
You're the conductor on a runaway trolley. There are 5 people on the tracks ahead of you who cannot get off the tracks in time. If you continue forward, you will run over and kill all 5. You cannot stop the trolley, but you can change to an alternate track where there is only 1 person on it. If you change tracks, the 5 people on the first track will live, but the person on the alternate track will be run over and die. Do you change tracks?
This is just basic logic. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one. So I would change tracks to kill 1 instead of 5.
What is your favorite holiday?
Arbor Day. I like that there's a holiday that's for trees and not humans. I always try to spend that day hanging out in the woods, away from people.
What's your favorite holiday?
Oh, well, that's easy. It's Thanksgiving. When you're homeless like I am, it's really hard to find places to sleep. But on Thanksgiving, I can sleep in front of any storefront, entrance, window, and everyone just thinks I'm queuing for the Black Friday sales, and I get left alone. It's pure bliss and just warms my heart every Thanksgiving.
And what is your favorite holiday?
I think it's a tie between Memorial Day. There's more murders in the U.S. on Memorial Day than any other day of the year. And All Hallows Eve, when the boundaries between the land of the living and the land of the dead are the thinnest.
You're the conductor on a runaway trolley. There are 5 people ahead of you on the tracks who do not have time to get off the tracks. If you continue forward, you will run over all 5 and they will die. You cannot stop the trolley, but you can change to an alternate track where there is only 1 person on it. If you choose to change tracks, the 5 people on the first track will live, but the 1 person on the alternate track will be run over and die. Do you change tracks?
I don't know anything about trolleys, but if I had a job driving one, I'm sure that they would teach me how to handle that situation in trolley school.
What is the most serious law you have ever broken?
I smoked a lot of weed in states where it wasn't legal yet. I guess I've technically sold it too, which would be a more serious crime. I was never a drug dealer, but if I bought a bunch and then some of my friends bought off of me, I guess that's technically selling drugs, even if I'm not charging them a markup. In terms of legal penalties, that would be the most serious. The penalties for drug-related charges are ridiculous in this country.
Have you ever cheated on anyone?
Certainly not. I have been ever faithful to my one true love, my husband. who I've not seen since the fishing trip, but he's my one and only.
Have you cheated on anyone?
Of course I have. I don't answer to men. If I choose to hook up with a guy, he should be eternally grateful. I certainly don't have any obligations to him afterwards.
What's the most serious law you've ever broken?
I used to have steaks flown in from this place that I love in France. I stopped when I found out it was illegal to import meats. I don't know how serious of a crime that is, but I'm glad I never found out the hard way.
You're the conductor. On a runaway trolley, there are 5 people on the tracks ahead of you who cannot get off the tracks in time. If you continue forward, you will run over and kill all 5 of them. You cannot stop the trolley, but you can change to an alternate track which only has 1 person on it. If you decide to change tracks, all 5 people on the first track will live, but the person on the alternate track will be run over and die. Do you change tracks?
Before answering that, what you have to understand is that being run over by a trolley doesn't have to be fatal. I've survived it at least twice now, and after an extended hospital stay, I was completely fine. You just have to avoid being crushed by the wheels when you're underneath. So, in answer to your question, your morality question, of course you switch to where the one person is because there's just not room under there for a crowd.
You're the conductor on a runaway trolley. There are 5 people on the tracks ahead of you who cannot get off the tracks in time. If you continue forward, you will run over and kill all 5. You cannot stop the trolley, but you can change to an alternate track where there is only 1 person on it. If you decide to change tracks, all 5 people on the original track will live, but the person on the alternate track will be run over and die. Do you change tracks?
So if I stay on the first track, I get to kill 5 people without the possibility of getting in any trouble whatsoever. But if I change tracks, I only get to kill 1, and there's a possibility that I go to prison. Why would I possibly change tracks? Is this a trick question? Is there a way to kill all 6? If there is, I don't see it. I'd stay on the first track and settle for 5.
That's the end of this round. We'll soon find out who will be going home after this message from our sponsor. Today's episode is brought to you by OneSock.com. Does it always seem like you have an odd number of socks for some reason? OneSock.com lets you buy 1 individual sock so you can finally even things out. That's OneSock.com. Use offer code TRUTH, and they'll include a second sock absolutely free. Now it's time for the audience to vote. Please enter the selection of the contestant you think should be going home. The votes are in. The audience has voted to send home Sam.
You know, coming in, I knew I had a 1 in 6 chance. Not a bad chance, but not perfect. So I'm not surprised I have to go home.
Have you ever cheated on anyone?
No, I would never do that. And I've proven it. I was asked out by Ryan Gosling, and I said no. I was dating a guy at the time. We weren't serious, but I don't cheat.
Have you ever cheated on anyone?
Yes and no. No, not really. I don't believe in monogamy. I would never have a one-on-one relationship. I do mess around with multiple partners, but they all know that we're in an open relationship, so it's not cheating. They're all allowed to have multiple partners too, and most of them do. Even saying that they're allowed to have multiple partners sounds wrong to me. I just don't understand monogamy. How can you tell another person they aren't allowed to do things that make them happy? That just seems so controlling to me. I could never do that to someone, or let someone do that to me.
What's the most serious law you've ever broken?
International piracy law. When I was lost at sea one time, I thought all was lost. But a pirate ship came by and actually rescued me. Now, you've heard bad things about pirates, and so had I, but they could not have been nicer. They gave me a job to do on ships so that I could earn my keep when I was there, and everything was going great until they got superstitious. They are superstitious, so they thought for some reason it might be bad luck that I was on board with them. So they were just about to drop me off when we got raided by a Russian Navy ship who put us all in a Russian jail for 5 years for piracy.
What's the most serious law you have ever broken?
See, the problem with that question is that you need to be caught, tried, and convicted for you to be breaking the law. Now, say I shoot someone. Was it self-defense? Was it manslaughter? Was it murder? Until it gets in front of a jury, we just don't know. And I'm not dumb enough to get caught and have to be put in front of a jury.
What is your most unusual talent?
I'm a really good cook. If I had to live in the old days where people had to cook their own meals, I could buy just fine.
What is your most unusual talent?
I know how to survive in the wilderness. I can tell what's edible. I can build a shelter and a fire. I can clean water so it's safe to drink. Just survival skills in general. I don't like being dependent on money or on society, so I learned how to get by on my own.
What is your most unusual talent?
My most unusual talent. Because, I've got quite a few talents, but... it's funny because some people think that it's unusual that I can digest grass. Now, I couldn't always digest grass. Humans are not known for their ability to digest grass, but if you really persevere after the first, 40 to 50 upset stomachs, your body does change and it can do it and adapt. And, I don't recommend if you've got any kind of, IBS or anything, but other than that, totally works for me, saves me a fortune.
What is your most unusual talent?
I'm an expert at falconry. I have a small collection of extremely well-trained birds of prey. I find owls to be particularly useful.
Describe a typical day in your life.
My days are really busy. My trainer wakes me up at 8, then I hit the gym for 2 hours. I head downstairs to get breakfast. Then I take a shower, get my hair and makeup done. Then I get dressed. And I take my first selfie of the day. Then I talk to my agent and she tells me what photo shoots I have or other obligations. On the rare days that I'm not that busy, I get to come on things like this show.
Describe a typical day in your life.
I live in my van now by choice. When I wake up, I usually drive to the gym so I can work out and get a shower. After breakfast, I usually work one of those food delivery apps for about an hour. I can't stand a normal job, but I can handle those apps in small doses. Once I'm done, I relax for the rest of the day. I go to the beach a lot. Every day feels like a day off because I don't have a regular day job or a boss to deal with. It's pretty great, to be honest.
Describe a typical day in your life.
A typical day in my life is searching for my missing daughter, Mallory. And, really it is one of the big benefits to being homeless and unemployed is that I have no ties. I've nothing holding me back and stopping me from hitchhiking out there, getting on the road, heading to the last town that I've heard that she was in. When I get to the town, usually I find out that she's just left there suddenly. So I'll search for a soup kitchen or a dumpster, get something nice to eat, and then maybe a place to shelter until I hit the road again the next morning trying to find Mallory.
Describe a typical day in your life.
I wake up, I eat breakfast, I feed my familiars, I go to work. When I get home, I like to relax and work on my bug collection.
What's your most unusual pet peeve?
Pet peeve. When my chihuahua poops in my purse. I carry her around everywhere in my bag. I wish they made like a harness so I can carry her around like a purse. And then they had pockets so I wouldn't need another purse at all.
What's your most unusual pet peeve?
Oh, it drives me crazy when people throw away plastic bottles with the cap screwed on. I understand that people are busy and can't always do much to help the environment, but all they have to do in this case is not screw the cap back on. If they put the cap on, then there's air trapped in the bottle and it won't flatten out in the landfill. Just leave the cap off and the bottle will get crushed and will take up way less space. It literally takes less than no effort.
What is your most unusual pet peeve?
Unusual pet peeve. Well, I tell you, there's a phrase that people overuse all the time, and it really does my head in because people say lightning never strikes twice. Well, I can tell you it does. It struck me 4 times, so that phrase is total nonsense. It's a bum steer.
What's your most unusual pet peeve?
I hate it when people whistle, or sing, or hum, or smile, or breathe.
What's your happiest memory?
When I was 8 years old, my parents bought me my first pony. They made sure it was a surprise by telling me I wouldn't get one until I was 10 years old. Then I went outside, and there she was, with a big bow. It was extra surprising because it wasn't even my birthday.
What's your happiest memory?
That's easy. First time I went to Burning Man. It wasn't that I loved Burning Man. Back then, I worked myself to death at my office job. I only averaged maybe 50 hours per week, but the stress, it stayed with me all the time, so it felt like 100. Burning Man was the very first vacation I ever took. Once I got to feel what it was like to be free from work for multiple days straight, it changed my life. I stopped working a corporate job, stopped obsessing over money, and now I'm finally happy.
What's your happiest memory?
Well, that's a no-brainer. My happiest memory is the day my beautiful daughter Mallory was born. I had her in the hospital and everything. I mean, I was already in the hospital because I'd been bitten by a raccoon. And I suppose it would have been easier if I'd had a doctor present, but I got stuck in an elevator on the way to the maternity floor. There I was, with the raccoon I brought with me to get tested for the rabies. It got loose and I had to fend that off for a while. Even so, out Mallory came and life was perfect.
What is your happiest memory?
When I was in the 4th grade, our teacher had a seizure in front of the whole class and died. We got to go home early. It was a double win.
That's the end of this round. We'll soon find out who will be going home after this message from our sponsor. Today's episode is brought to you by placebos. Are you a hypochondriac? Ask your doctor if placebos are right for you. Now it's time for the audience to vote. Please enter the selection of the contestant you think should be going home. The votes are in. The audience has voted to send home Lilith. Please keep in mind that this was not my decision. What is your proudest accomplishment?
My proudest accomplishment. I would probably say when I hit 1 million followers. That wasn't my only milestone, but that one definitely stuck with me.
What is your proudest accomplishment?
I organized a demonstration to save a park, and it worked. They were going to level the place and build a distribution center. We had people protesting at the site for 3 weeks straight and got over 1,000 names on the petition. They ended up building the distribution center on the site of a nearby abandoned mall instead, so we didn't lose any jobs or anything. It was a complete win.
What is your proudest accomplishment?
I was a world record holder. I was the last known person to contract smallpox. For a week, somebody else did get it after me. I don't know their name. I mean, I don't really remember the week because I did have a terrible fever and a really itchy rash, but they say everyone gets their 15 minutes of fame, and that was mine.
If you found a wallet, would you return it?
I always return wallets when I find them. Every time. It's the right thing to do.
If you found a wallet, would you return it?
I would return it, but I wouldn't be doing the owner a favor by doing so. People are obsessed with money and credit cards. They think money will buy them the freedom to enjoy life. Really, the quest to acquire wealth just makes you a slave to your employer. Still, it's their wallet, so of course I'd return it.
If you found a wallet, would you return it?
Absolutely, I would return a wallet. I mean, if I was ever lucky enough to own something as precious as a wallet, I would really hope that someone would return mine to me if I ever lost it.
What were you like as a child?
I was super busy as a kid. I couldn't decide what I wanted to be when I grew up, so my parents made sure I was ready for anything. I took singing lessons, acting lessons, modeling lessons. You could say I got a really well-rounded education, so I'm ready for any job at this point.
What were you like as a child?
I was a straight A student. I had perfect attendance and all that. It wasn't until I became an adult that I realized how conforming to society's standards was actually a bad thing. If I could go back and do it again, I'd focus more on enjoying my childhood.
What were you like as a child?
I was a hoop trundler. You know, when you get the wooden hoop and you run it down the street with your wooden stick. Oh, I was getting so good at it. I could go really fast and really far. I had to stop because I got rickets.
What do you do for a living?
I'm an Instagram model. I still live with my parents, but I can move out if I wanted to. Our house is so big that I feel like it would be a waste to move out. We have so many empty rooms, I'm not even sure if I've seen them all.
What do you do for a living?
I escaped the rat race a few years ago. I cut all my expenses drastically, so now I only need a few $100 a month to survive. I deliver food through those gig apps, but only 2 or 3 orders per day, just enough to get by. I find if I make more money than I need, I just end up buying stuff that clutters my life and makes me less happy.
What do you do for a living?
Well, I sold furniture for a while. Then I ran out of furniture. Then I sold shoes for a while. Ran into a similar problem. Now I'm unemployed.
If you were going to be stranded on an island with one person of your choosing, who would it be?
I don't have the skills to survive on an island, so it would probably have to be some guy who can take care of me. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anyone, but I'm sure if I posted on Instagram, I would have some very qualified volunteers.
If you were going to be stranded on an island with one person of your choosing, who would it be?
I know the standard answer is to name someone really hot who you want to sleep with, but that's actually pretty cruel. You're basically condemning the person you picked to be stranded on a deserted island. That's a pretty awful thing to do to someone. I'd pick no one. I'd be stuck on the island by myself.
That's a lie.
This is embarrassing. Forgot I was hooked up to a lie detector. I'd pick Chris Hemsworth. Sorry, Chris.
If you were going to be stranded on an island with one person of your choosing, who would it be?
Is it okay to say myself? I'd pick myself. Because that one time that I was stranded on a deserted island before, it was just me and I got used to it. I mean, when I say deserted island, it was more like one of those floating garbage piles that gather together in the ocean that Greenpeace hate. Anyway, I'd still choose me.
That's the end of this round. We'll soon find out who will be going home after this message from our sponsor. Today's episode is brought to you by the letter K. Now it's time for the audience to vote. Please enter the selection of the contestant you think should be going home. The votes are in. The audience has voted to send home Autumn.
It's probably for the best I didn't win. Lots of money rarely leads to happiness.
If you could have any job, what would it be?
I want to design handbags and accessories. I've considered designing clothes, but I think accessories is my real passion.
If you could have any job, what would it be?
Any job in the whole world? I would choose to be a wealthy banker because they get paid a fortune and their hours don't seem bad at all. I mean, maybe when the line gets really long up to their till, that might get stressful managing that. But apart from that, I mean, what's the downside?
What was your childhood dream?
I'm a huge Disney fan. When I was growing up, all I ever wanted to do was date a prince and live happily ever after. Then I grew up, and I realized how unrealistic that fantasy is. I've dated a prince, and they're not charming like in the movies.
What was your childhood dream?
Oh, I totally remember my childhood dream. It was magical. I mean, we didn't have any money to afford a TV set, but my neighbours did. And we could see it if you just, peered out the window a certain way, we could see across into their living room, and they would always watch game shows. And all I wanted was to be a winner on one of those game shows and just, oh my goodness, that was it for me.
What is your biggest fear?
Getting a pimple. I've known people who have had one and they say it's awful. That's why I do a strict regimen of cleansing, toning, and moisturizing to make sure I don't get one. I heard it can happen to anyone.
What is your biggest fear?
Oof. My biggest fear is flying. And it's always been my biggest fear, even when I was a little girl. I was petrified of flying. And so my parents got me an emotional support dog called Mr. Fluffers. And they told me that as long as I had Mr. Fluffers with me when I was flying, everything would be all right. So off I went on my first plane trip with Mr. Fluffers, and I knew everything was going to be all right. Even when the plane crashed into the mountains, I still knew everything was going to be all right because I had Mr. Fluffers. Unfortunately, it was about 3 weeks that we had before the search and rescue team found me and other survivors. 3 weeks without food. So, I suppose, we wouldn't have been all right if Mr. Fluffers hadn't been there initially.
What advice would you give to your younger self?
Start acting and modeling earlier. I was 9 years old when I started. Other girls had a huge head start on me by then, so I had to play catch up.
What advice would you give to your younger self?
Oh, I would tell my younger self to stay away from drugs. I did far too many pharmaceutical studies. I was warned, don't do more than one at the same time, but the money was so good. I got greedy and I signed up for 18. Most of the horrific side effects have faded over time. However, I still get terrible hallucinations when I pee, and it hurts real bad to my left eye when I blink.
If you could have any superpower, what would you choose?
Shape-shifting. If I could shape-shift, I wouldn't have to work out and watch what I eat every single day. And I could still have this figure.
If you could have any superpower, what would you choose?
I would choose the superpower to heal like Wolverine. That would just come in so handy for me. It would save so much time. I wouldn't have to go to hospital every single time I got attacked by a wild animal or caught some terrible disease or was in some almost fatal accident.
That's the end of this round. We'll soon find out who will be going home after this message from our sponsor. Today's episode is brought to you by Vegas Tales, the full-motion video game from the makers of Truth. A wealthy resort owner is dying and needs you to help decide who should inherit his estate. You'll be interviewing some over-the-top characters and helping choose who will become extremely wealthy. Be careful, as there may be more to some than meets the eye. Vegas Tales is available now on your favorite gaming platform. Now it's time for the audience to vote. Please enter the selection of the contestant you think should be going home. The votes are in. The $1 million prize is going to Claire.
No way! I can't have won. I've never won anything in my life before. This is insane. Well, apart from that one time I won a free video rental at Blockbuster, but they went out of business the next day, so that doesn't really count. This is awesome. Thanks so much.